Welcome. Almighty God, we pray for your blessing upon this council. Help and prosper its work for the advancement and benefit of its people, so that peace and happiness, unity and justice may be established amongst us all. Amen. Manningham Council acknowledges the Wurundjeri people as the traditional owners of the land and waterways now known as Manningham. Council pays respects to elders past, present and emerging, and values the ongoing contribution to enrich and appreciate the cultural heritage of Manningham. Council acknowledges and respects Australia's First Peoples as traditional owners of lands and waterways across country, and encourages reconciliation between all. Manningham Council also values the contribution made to Manningham over the years of people of diverse backgrounds and cultures. I welcome all members of the public who have joined us in person and online to observe tonight's proceedings. I would also welcome Ron Kitchingman OAM JP, who is with us this evening. Thank you, Ron, for being here. I would also like to advise that tonight's meeting is being audio and video recorded. All care will be taken to maintain your privacy. However, as a visitor in the public gallery, your presence may be recorded. By remaining in the gallery, it is assumed your consent is given if your voice and/or image is broadcast by council. No additional recording of the meeting is permitted without council's consent. Council meetings are conducted in accordance with our governance rules. I will introduce each item of business listed on the agenda, calling it by number and reading it by title. I will then call for a mover and a seconder of a motion on the item before opening any debate. Only councillors can join the debate on an item. Councillors may adopt officers' recommendation in a report or propose amendments and supplementary motions. I would also like to draw your attention to item 7 on tonight's agenda, public question time, which provides people with an opportunity to ask questions of the council. Council has allocated 30 minutes for question time, and the process for public question time is set out in our governance rules. Questions must be received prior to the start of the meeting to be asked. Where we receive advance notice of a question in accordance with our governance rules, we will provide a verbal response to the question at our meeting. Questions we receive just prior to the meeting may be taken on notice if we don't have the information available to provide a meaningful response. If this happens, we will provide you with a written response to your question within 10 working days. Our governance rules provide that we deal with a maximum of 2 questions per person and up to 4 questions on any one issue. These rules will be enforced to ensure a broad range of topics and perspectives can be heard during question time. When it is your turn, I will ask you to come forward to the lectern in the gallery. After you ask your question, you will have 2 minutes to make a brief statement. If you have more than 2 questions, please submit these additional questions in writing to council through the normal channels. To ensure the efficient conduct of our meeting and maximum participation during question time, all questions and answers shall be as brief as possible and no discussion will be entered into. Councillors in the gallery are reminded that question time is to be conducted in a respectful manner, having consideration to the diverse views of those present. Any disorderly conduct will be managed in accordance with our governance rules. Item number 2, apologies and requests for leave. Councillors, we have received an apology from Councillor Peter Bain for this evening's meeting. Councillors, are there any other requests for leave of absence? I'll take that as a no. Item number 3, prior notification of conflict of interest. There has been no prior notifications of conflict of interest that have been received. Would anyone like to give a notice of conflict of interest? And I'll take that as a no. Item number 4, confirmation of minutes. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Lang.
Mayor, I move that the minutes of the council meeting held on the 28th of April 2026 be confirmed.
Thank you, Councillor Lang. Do I have a seconder, please?
I second the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Main. Can I put that motion? All in favour? That is carried unanimously. Item 5, presentations. Item 5.1, 2026 Institute of Public Works Engineering Australasia Awards. Councillors, I am extremely pleased to share that Manningham City Council was proudly represented at the 2026 IPWEA Awards, achieving an outstanding result for the team behind the Templestowe Memorial Reserve project. I am thrilled to share that the Templestowe Memorial Reserve achieved second place and received commendation in the Public Works Project Award categories, which is a project under $2 million, a significant achievement in what was a highly competitive field across the industry. This recognition is a proud moment and fitting acknowledgement of the dedication and collaboration and hard work that went into delivering this project. It also is a tremendous honour for the Parks and Natural Environment team, whose commitment continues to deliver exceptional outcomes for our community. So well done to all the officers on that piece of work, and congratulations. Item 5.2, motion of condolence. The passing of Honourable Norman Henry Lacy. Councillors, it is with deep sadness that I must inform you of the recent passing of the Honourable Norman Henry Lacy. Norman dedicated his life to improving the lives of others through public service and education. Norman was elected to the Victorian Parliament in 1973, proudly representing both Warrandyte and Ringwood. He was a strong advocate for disability services, community programs and the arts. Norman made a significant contribution to Victoria's arts scene through the construction of the Victorian Arts Centre and its iconic spire, the establishment of Film Victoria, now known as Vic Screen, the award-winning Australian television program, Children's Television Program Foundation, and our very own Heidi Museum of Modern Art. After leaving Parliament in 1982, Norman built a successful career in management and education and consulting. Norman leaves behind a legacy of service, compassion and leadership. Councillors, can I have a mover for this motion?
Mr Mayor, I move and place on record its sadness at the recent passing of the Honourable Norman Henry Lacy, record its appreciation for the contribution by the Honourable Norman Henry Lacy to Manningham and the broader Victorian community, and extend its sympathy and condolences to the family during this difficult time.
Thank you, Councillor Goff. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Chen.
I second the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Can I have...
Yeah, I'll speak.
Yep. Councillor Goff, would you like to speak to the motion?
Norm Lacy was a person that was, I suppose, big in this area at the time. And if I cast my mind back to the Hamer, who came after him, Thompson government in Victoria, he was part of that government. At the time, the government was quite advanced in many ways. It created green wedges around Melbourne. It created open spaces, the Hamer-Thompson government. Also, it actually established Heidi Gallery. And they are some of the things in our area that it was. But Norman was actually an MP for Warrandyte and Ringwood, and was here in those particular times. But an interesting person. Often we have MPs that come through that just been MPs and party hacks, whereas this gentleman had done a number of things in his life. Besides, I suppose, coming from England and no one actually came from England, but he did study in England and got his degrees in England. But he was an apprentice plumber, an Anglican priest, a Liberal politician, a management educator, and he was, I suppose, the president of the Independent Contractors of Australia, and that's a group that actually is out there that supports all of the, I suppose, contractors that aren't part of a major building group or a union group, and so the Independent Contractors Association. He did have a great input into the community through all of those years of public life, and it is with sadness that a person that was relevant to this area of Manningham has passed away, and the condolence go to the family and friends.
Thank you, Councillor Goff. Councillor Chen, would you like to speak to the motion?
Nothing to add, just my condolence to the families. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chen. I will put that motion. All in favour? Motion carried unanimously. Item number 6, petitions. I note that a written response has been provided to a lead petitioner from the 28th of April 2026 council meeting and was included in the agenda of this meeting. The responses will be included in the minutes in accordance with sub-rule 58.9 of the governance rules. Item 6.1. Councillors, we have received one petition for tabling tonight. The petition is not to install the proposed bus shelter outside 348 or 350 Thompson's Road. Can I have a mover, please?
Mr Mayor,
Councillor.
I move that the petition with 19 signatures requesting council not to install the proposed bus shelter outside 348 to 350 Thompson's Road be tabled and referred to the relevant officer.
Thank you, Councillor Goff. Do I have a seconder, please?
I second.
Councillor Lang. Councillor Goff, would you like to speak to the motion?
No, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Lang, would you like to speak to the motion?
No, thank you, Mr.
I will put that motion. All in favour? That's carried unanimously. Item number 7, public question time. Councillors, we've received several questions for tonight's council meeting. Anyone who has registered a question with their council will have the opportunity to read out their question or choose to have their question read out by the CEO. I will call upon those who have registered their questions to come forward to the lectern in the gallery. Our first questions tonight come from Ron Kitchingman OAM JP. Ron, since you're in the gallery, would you please come to the lectern to ask your questions, and you have 2 minutes to make a brief statement and provide some context to your questions before asking your questions.
Thank you, Mr Mayor and councillors. My questions. There's a 90-year-old on his glasses, sorry about that. In regard to disability parking, there are never enough parking bays available. Could Manningham Council review the required number of parking bays recommended on all future planning permits, with the need to increase the proportion of parking bays for both disability parking and seniors? Question 2. Could Manningham City Council liaise with all shopping centre managers with a request to increase their current allocation of both disability parking and seniors parking to better suit community expectations? I regularly go to the Pines shopping area, and whilst there are some allocated parking bays, it is very hard to locate a vacant one. Likewise, for shopping, I use Tunstall Square, Devon Drive, Jackson Court. All have a few parking bays for disability permit holders, but it is very hard to find an empty one to use. None of those appears to provide seniors parking bays. We also need to go to Bull End Plaza for medical appointments. My wife needs to use a mobility walker. Very few disability parking bays are available, so if we have to park in the general area, it is hard to get a walker from the car, and then we have to walk to the end of the row of cars, dodging cars that are backing in and out of parking bays. We then have to walk on the roadway so as to get to the footpath. It's not an easy task. I also go to Blackburn Square Shopping Centre, which is over the city of Whitehorse, and they do have ample disability parking at the very front door of their centre. When we visit the library at MC Square, it is fantastic, with plenty of disability parking bays near the lift. I do understand that parking at these shopping centres is not under MCC control. However, I would like to point out that Manningham has an ageing population, and older people are more than likely to be the ones who receive a disability parking permit. So perhaps it is time to look at providing more parking bays for holders of disability parking permits and seniors who would appreciate being able to park near the shops and council facilities. Thank you, Mr Mayor and councillors.
Thank you, Ron, for your question. I will direct that question to Lachlan Johnson, the Director of City Services.
Through you, Mayor, thank you very much, Ron, for both your questions this evening. I'll answer them collectively. Council absolutely recognises the importance of accessible parking bays being available for the community. As you outlined articulately, the availability of accessible car parking for many in our community ensures independence, dignity, access to services and social connection, and the ability to participate in the local economy. Council has various strategies, policies and plans that outline our intentions to maintain and improve access to accessible parking, be in private developments through the planning scheme, in commercial car parks like at the shopping centres in the examples you raised, and in public spaces, in our reserves, council-owned car parks and at public buildings. Council's key strategic document, the Asset Plan, outlines that Council intends to ensure an increase access to accessible car parking to improve access for people with disabilities and those with caring responsibilities. Further, later this year, Council will be considering the Disability Access and Inclusion Framework, which is currently under development. This plan will consolidate all the other actions and commitments made across varying council strategies and other documents, with the aim towards supporting the wellbeing of people with disability, including through the provision of accessible car parking. Together, the controls that Council's got do establish minimum expectations to ensure disability parking spaces and senior parking spaces are appropriately located, safely designed and functionally accessible. Whilst those controls are strong, we want to do more, and we will. Ron, thank you for your feedback and questions. We'll take on board the specific feedback and consider how, in the upcoming Disability Access and Inclusion Framework, we can take on board those examples and the lived experience in formulating our actions to improve access to accessible car parking across the municipality.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lachlan. Thank you, Ron, for your questions.
Thank you.
Item 7.2. Our next questions are from Helen Jurcevic. Helen, if you're in the gallery, would you please come to the lectern and ask your questions? You have 2 minutes to make a brief statement and provide context to your questions, and then you can ask your questions.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillors, good evening. I have 2 questions. Question 1. Based on the Giggle versus Tickle case, would the Women's Friendship Group of Manningham be obliged to admit a transgender male into its membership as the members appear to be uncomfortable with such extension of the definition of a woman? Question 2. Based on the Giggle versus Tickle case, is it likely that Manningham Council is obliged to admit a transgender male into the female change rooms at Aquarina Aquatic Centre on women-only Sunday sessions, or on the Thursday when the Women's Friendship Group of Manningham attend 2 water aerobic classes? The Women's Friendship Group has women from 29 diverse cultural and religious backgrounds. We have 212 members, with a breakdown of 79 women in their 70s, 93 women in their 80s, and 18 women in their 90s, the elder being 97. Women in the Women's Friendship Group were raised in an era when women were defined solely on biological gender. Thank you.
Thank you, Helen, for your questions. I'll refer those to Andrew McMaster, the Acting Director of Connected Communities.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you, and thank you, Helen, for your question. The Women's Friendship Group operates independently of Council. Council's role is to provide inclusive facilities and spaces for use by a range of user groups and the broader community. Decisions regarding membership are entirely a matter for the group itself. We therefore recommend the group seek independent legal or professional advice in relation to your inquiry. On your second question, our Aquatic Centre provides a range of inclusive spaces and programs designed to support people of all ages, abilities and genders. This includes a diversity of change spaces, including male, female and all gender options, so that all patrons can choose the space that best meets their needs. Under Victorian law, individuals are entitled to access facilities that align with their gender identity, not their sex assigned at birth. The Equal Opportunity Act 2010 Victoria prohibits discrimination on the basis of gender identity. Thanks for your questions.
Thank you, Andrew, and thank you, Helen, for your questions. Item 7.3. Our next questions are from Aliakbar, Akbarzadeh and Shanin Movassat on behalf of the House of Persia community and the Cultural Centre. If you are both in attendance, can you please come to the lectern and ask your questions? You have 2 minutes to make a brief statement or to provide context to your questions. They don't seem to be here. Mr. CEO, would you like to ask those questions?
Happy to ask the questions. And the question is related to transport. Can Council provide us, this is in relation to cultural excursions, can Council provide us with some means of transport? Please note that not all of the above ladies have PR or social security cover, and they may be holders of bridging visas.
Okay, and that's the reference to the ladies group gatherings at the House of Persia Community and Cultural Centre and excursions. I'll refer that question to Andrew McMaster again, Acting Director of Connected Communities.
Through you, Mayor, and thank you to the House of Persia for these questions. Officers received a similar inquiry from the House of Persia in early May and have responded directly via a telephone discussion to discuss the matters raised. We understand that access to reliable transport can be a challenge for many participants and are committed to helping the group explore suitable options. There are currently a range of community transport services available in Manningham to support older residents. This includes Manningham Community Transport, which is delivered on Council's behalf by an external contractor which offers assisted transport, weekly bus services with pick-up and return, and social outings. In addition, several other local providers operate in the area and may be able to assist depending upon individual circumstances. While Council does not provide dedicated transport for individual groups, our Healthy Ageing team are experts in helping older people in Manningham to navigate the transport options that are available and can work closely with the House of Persia members to explore those options, support access to services and help identify practical and inclusive transport solutions. I will ask our Healthy Ageing team to contact Home of Persia to offer this navigation service once again. Council acknowledges that some participants may not meet eligibility requirements for Commonwealth-funded transport services. In those circumstances, the Healthy Ageing team will work with the group to explore alternative and inclusive options where these are available. Additionally, Council offers the Senior Club Support Grants Program, which will reopen later this year. This grant supports seniors groups to strengthen participation and achieve community outcomes. The House of Persia Group is encouraged to apply as funding may assist with transport-related expenses, such as hiring buses for excursions. Again, the Healthy Ageing team is available and ready at hand to provide tailored advice on transport options, support connection with local providers, and assist with those grant application. Council continues to value the contribution of this group and remains committed to supporting inclusive participation for older residents in Manningham's diverse community. Thank you for your question.
Thank you, Andrew, and thank you, Aliakbar and Shahin. Item number 8, admission of urgent business. Councillors, there are no items of urgent business. Item number 9, planning permit applications. Councillors, there are no planning permit applications requiring a decision of Council this month. Item number 10, city planning and livability. 10.1, statutory planning application activity, quarter 3, January to March 2026. Can I have a mover, please?
Mr Mayor, I move as on the paper.
Thank you, Councillor Goff. Can I have a seconder, please?
I second the motion.
Councillor Chen. Councillor Goff, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you very much, and the report actually covers a lot of information on our planning and the planning team and the level of service to the community. And I suppose, you know, I always like to get up here and say that we can do better, and we probably can, but that we are achieving fairly good rates, especially on the Vic Smart applications, which are are running extremely high in the high 90s%, I think, from recollection.
100%.
How do you do better than 100%?
Well, you can. You've got to do 101%. You've got to do more. You've got to anticipate. No. Thank you for that interjection. That was good. No, really, getting done out there on time. There is the one thing that I do notice in this, I suppose, these graphs, and it's 3.5, and it's sort of telling us something about planning and what's happening in our world. Now, these are planning applications, not just for building. So there are a whole lot of other things like signs, cutting down a tree now, a whole lot of other issues come in to the planning decisions and needing a planning permit to do things. But if I just start looking at the total numbers seem to be dropping of applications, and the total numbers, I'd say, of permits for housing and buildings will be dropping over the years to lower numbers. And it's perhaps a sign of the times that we're going to find a situation where there is people can't be putting in plans of things. So I want to have a bit of a thing on the trend and whether we think that is affecting Manningham, because a city that is not growing at all or is not having any new development is a dead city, and it's basically one that's going to always go backwards. But it is a bit of a concern that we're in a situation now where this activity is being greatly reduced through the ability to finance it, for the compliance things that have gone in. The industry's been attacked, and I think we might be starting to see the outcomes of that with the amount of applications that are coming into Manningham. But congratulations on the numbers there. I don't know whether beating the metropolitan average is a good thing or not, because I think it's a very low bar that we're chasing after there. But congratulations on continually beating it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Goff. Councillor Chen, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, my fellow councillor, Councillor Goff, has rightly pointed out that they noticed that the decrease of planning submissions in Q3. That's largely because there's always the trend in Q3 because of the Christmas and New Year period, and people just pack up and holidaying and just relax and think about that when they come back. But just notice that the big smart application, which is the application decided within 10 business days, the numbers is actually increasing. And the demand for big smart applications, they are more, the trend is that some of them are related to canopy trees and dual occupancy application that has been increased. So that I noticed that they're placing intensive pressure on council resources to meet the 10-day statutory time frame. So, for example, council received an additional 43 new applications in Q3, and I have to say that the increased volume of applications, which is, we all think that Big Smart is simple, but there is complexity within simplicity. Mainly because for those canopy tree removal or retention, it actually needs specialized arborist and planner input. So, but inclusion, there is a very, very good performance review, given that the team has been balancing significant regulatory reforms while trying to maintain or even improving performance. So I have to say that the team's effort that deserves to be acknowledged and truly appreciated from all councillors. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chen. Do I have any councillors against the motion? Do I have any other councillors who would like for the motion? Councillor Diamante.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I just want to expand on what Councillor Goff said, and I think it's really important because councils in the last 2 years have been in the firing line and often the excuse of why we don't have housing. And we all know we've been giving housing targets, and many council functions around residential strategies, etc., have been removed from council. But I would really urge decision makers to have a look at reports like this, because as Councillor Goff said, if you have a look at the numbers, and now it's my turn on to put my glasses on, it's really interesting where the total number of applications, which include VicSmart, etc., have decreased year on year since 21 and 22. So that's first, I think, quite interesting. What's also interesting is council has actually only refused in this financial year up to the end of the last quarter, so noting there's still another 3 months to go, we've only refused 9 out of the 598 applications have been decided. 85 had a notice of decision to grant a permit. Only 9 were refused. So again, that's like 1% of the 598 that were permitted, and I think that's a really important statistic. This is not council refusing these things. And of those that were refused, only 5 have gone to VCAT, which again is a really important statistic. And I also want to point out another statistic. 10%, almost 10% of applications have been withdrawn or lapsed. And that's happened year on year as well. So there's some and the other stat, 93% of applications were decided within the 60 statutory day requirement. So for me, this is a really important report to show that the housing crisis, and it is, I absolutely fundamentally agree, we need more housing and we need more affordable housing, but we cannot just lay these things at the feet of councils. When you see these sorts of performances, we have to understand the many other factors at play, be they taxation or be they business or what have you. So I do want to congratulate the officers, because it has been an extraordinarily difficult 18 months keeping up with the myriad of changes that have been coming out of the department while still meeting the statutory timeframe. And as I said, I would really encourage our decision makers to have a look at these reports and just dig deeper into why we're not seeing the houses that we need built. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Di Matteo. Are there any other councillors wanting to speak to the motion? I will now put the motion. Councillor Goff, you're closing?
Yeah, on the closing, and that particular last stat is the ones that have been withdrawn and whatever. And it'd be interesting to work out, and I don't know whether you know why somebody would withdraw an application, but I should imagine, because I know that there are about 3 reasons why you would withdraw it. One is that you can no longer go and it's run out of time, and you can no longer actually hang on paying interest on the millions you've had on your block of land without a decision being made, and you cut your losses before you go. The second is your property or what you were going to do no longer stacks up. You can't afford to build it, and that is something that does occur. The longer it takes an application to get through, the longer you're paying interest on a property, and the property doesn't stack up, so you can't build what you wanted to build. And so it'd be interesting to know, when people withdraw, is it because of those reasons that in the time that they've had the application in and are running it, have not been able to actually get it? I know we've had things on Doncaster Hill that have been that ran for 10 years and couldn't stack up. They finally went to start to build the building and then found it finally couldn't stack up either. So there are a whole lot of issues that here in the housing problem, and they're not all just on the time, but they're the reasons with the length of time it takes to get things through and to go through. Projects don't stack up. I know that it's gone up about 30% in the last 4 years, building. So if you were going to build a $1 million house, it'd be another whatever.
Thank you. Councillor Goff, is
300,000.
that a question?
No,
to
it was a
officers
statement
or
of just clarifying, because Councillor Diamantia is correct. That particular cohort is a very important cohort to look at as to why people have withdrawn the application, and it'd be good to get some feedback on that.
Thank you, Councillor Goff. I will now put that motion. All in favour? Carried unanimously. Item 11, Connected Communities. 11.1, Warrandyte Community Facilities Review Report, Community Consultation Feedback. Can I have a mover, please?
That the recommendation be adopted.
Thank you,
Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Lang. Can I have a seconder, please?
I second the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Al-Taha. Councillor Lang, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor, I will. Look, I do rise to support the recommendation to note this consultation paper. This report, councillors, is for noting, and I think that shows that that's fundamental in good governance. It's about how we have consulted, what we've heard when we've consulted, and then closing the loop and getting back to our community about that consultation. And that is about good governance. Look, with this Warrandyte Facilities Review, the feedback was received. It was critical. It was also thoughtful, detailed and deeply invested in the future of Warrandyte facilities. The level of engagement was high, and it showed that how much people, our residents, really value the community infrastructure which they pay for. But I am very pleased to say to you, fellow councillors, that the organisation has not stood still just from receiving this feedback. They have then pursued this feedback to understand it, to know how to respond to it. So we've had a meeting on the 16th of April, generally listening to the community about their feedback and concerns and advice. That included a group called WAVA, and acknowledging the concerns about the review, but also about the process moving forward. From there, it was agreed that, look, the whole review was very ambitious, and that further rigorous planning, clear communication and deeper consultation is required moving forward. There was agreement on some of the key infrastructure needs that came out of the report, like the Scouts, the Men's Shed, early years facilities and the historical societies, which are all within our buildings or under our management. There was also the acknowledgement of the continuing of assets through repairs, maintenance and renewal, and being transparent in the process and the timelines that this takes. The purpose of tonight's report, which is just for noting, is also to ensure that our consultation process is robust, to formally acknowledge people who make submissions and take the time to provide their feedback. Also to be able to communicate a clear path forward. So most importantly, it's about what happens next, what happens on the ground, what happens with this feedback. And I'm very pleased to say that from here we are moving for that more targeted, practical action feedback, so that we can work directly with the people and the stakeholders of these community facilities to know how to have longevity and to be wise with our finances with all our community services. For the Scouts, it means holding meetings with their project group within Scouts Victoria, focusing on exploring their future ambitions for refurbishment or expansion, and looking at their practical needs of storage as also an essential need for amenities and access. It's working with the Men's Shed group, who are looking at moving forward in a feasibility study to see how our Warrandyte Reserve community facility can be activated for them, looking at access to parking and traffic, and engaging with the community ready for state government advocacy. It's also looking with the Historical Society and working with them on a collaborative approach to look at their existing facility and how to maintain that for longevity and community safety. And then it's our early years services that operate out of our community facilities and working with the Department of Education and local providers. We acknowledge that there is uncertainty in this area, particularly with childcare services that operate out of local government facilities. And we're committed to working with these providers so that we can carefully, in partnership, have facilities that are used for all our residents now and in the future and for our needs. I'm very pleased to say that this demonstrates a really clear shift from moving away from assumptions and actually having collaborations. So working...
Councillor Lang, that's time. Can I ask for an extension? Yep, Councillor Goff. Can I have a seconder? Councillor Main. Another 2 minutes. Sorry, can we vote? All in favour? Thank you, unanimous. Another 2 minutes. Councillor
Thank you. And so the themes that came out of this facilities review showed constraints in our facilities as well. It showed that if you look at all the facilities in Manningham and then our budgetary requirements, there's not going to be the ability to upgrade them all at the same time. So we have to look at staged approaches and having longevity in our services. It also looked at accessibility, the need, as we heard in our questions raised to us this evening. It's about providing accessibility, disability parking for seniors. It's around looking at the parking requirements of areas and facilities. It's looking where you've got central hubs where everybody wants to be, and then you've got facilities where no one can access because they're not near public transport. So this review is going to have a long-term vision. It's going to work closely and amicably with community groups, and we really need to balance demand, access, and a better use of all available services. So in closing tonight, I just want to say that we're not revisiting the past or the review, but we are moving forward in a better collaborative way where we're acknowledging community feedback, we are committing to work with stakeholders, and we are looking at outcomes that will benefit our community. And we know when council and community work together side by side, that's when we get good outcomes. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lang. Councillor El Taha, would you like to speak to the motion?
No, thank you, Mayor. I think the ward councillor covered it in a lot of detail and with a lot of passion. So I'll leave her words being what is left to community.
Thank you, Councillor El Taha. Do I have any councillors against the motion? Do I have any other councillors who would like to speak to the motion? I will now put that motion. All in favour? That is carried unanimously. Item 12, City Services. 12.1, March 2026 Capital Works Status Report. Can I have a mover, please?
Mr Mayor, I move as on paper.
Thank you, Councillor Goff. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Conlon. Councillor Goff, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and I get up to speak on our Capital Works interim report status for the 3 quarters of the year, and especially focusing on the March quarter. Interesting reading here, and it's, I suppose, like anything, this is probably the hardest area to actually predict what's going to happen, because you might plan to do building, but if you scratch open the ground and find something different underneath, all sort of ramifications come on. If things don't get done in time, or if you require certain plans and things, hurdles get in the way, and that's why buildings usually, you think about building a building and double the time and probably add another year or so onto that to get it finished, because things go in there. And of course, with a very large capital works program of 70-something million, 78 or something like that, hang on, somewhere, anyway. We basically have a lot of things here that have gone, and I thank this report very much for going into detail in following pages of why certain projects have been postponed, what's happened to them, why they're not going to be finished at the end. I think there are 40-something of these particular programs that are not going to be completed by the end of the year. We actually know that by now, and perhaps we would be able to get more done if we cancelled all the building holidays over January and all the parties before Christmas. We would have an extra month in the year to get a whole lot of work done. But given that it is as it is, that's a given. Basically, 84% of the budget will be expended, as it says here in the report, and that 8 million isn't being lost. It will be carried over to next year, and we look to have a very high budget for the next year. And as I look at the graph, it is actually looking as it should look, in that parabolic graph of completion of things and money expended. Always the last quarter is the one where most of it gets expended, because by that stage you don't want to pay for something before it's done. So, you are finishing it off in that time, especially if the project is just starting off and hasn't been being worked on beforehand. When it is, there's a greater chance of getting whatever you need done in the time. But if you've got to start from the initial thing, from when the budget is granted to actually implementing it, it's a very short timeline to get capital works programs in there if they're different or not ongoing. So congratulations, good report, and thank you very much for informing. Oh yes, and I missed out on another thing, and that is that it's really good to see that where we're going to be transferring funds in the interim on other projects that are coming in, and that's on section 17 at 1.7, sorry. The funding transfers on page 106, if anyone wants to look at it.
Thank you, Councillor Goff. Councillor Collins, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you, and thank you, Councillor Goff. It is a great report. It's a really good reminder of how much work we do as council, and there's lovely pictures in here. I'd like to note the Bulleen Library, which was still under construction but is now completed, which is a great achievement by the team. The Youth Hub, which is now finished, and yeah, while we haven't been able to keep on track for everything, I would like to note that in the following areas, our projected expenditure is above our 100%, above our target. So by the end of the year, and I think these are really important types of projects. They're footpaths, bus shelters, bicycle network, and sports grounds redevelopment. They're all going to be ahead of the game. So that's some good news for our residents who, particularly with things like bus shelters and footpaths, like they rely on these to be done in a timely manner. And so I'd just like to note and congratulate the team on the good work they've done in terms of putting the report together, but also, as Councillor Goff mentioned, explaining all the reasons why things don't go so well. I remember a chat with our Director of City Services, I think I got that wrong, right, regarding Jumping Creek Road, particularly, there's stuff that is out of our control, which is holding up that project. So, and I think when I drive down there and I have to keep going around that detour, I'm reminded of it very, very often. But I'm sure all the residents down there think the same. But in the meantime, maybe it's diverting traffic around the other way, and there'll end up not being so many people on Jumping Creek Road when we finish. So there you go.
Thank you, Councillor Conlon. Do I have a mover against the motion? Do I have councillors to speak to the motion? I will move that motion. All in favour? That is carried unanimously. Item 13, experience and capability. 13.1, proposed 2026-27 budget and proposed 10-year financial plan for 2026-27 to 2035-36. Councillors, I move that recommendation be adopted. Can I please have a seconder?
I second the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Lang. So, councillors, this year, as council and as councillors, we reviewed our budget principles, basically to strengthen and demonstrate our mission to be financially sustainable. We engaged late in 2025 with a community survey to understand priorities in the spending for 2026-27, and we had 149 responses, ranking the maintenance and cleaning of public spaces, sporting facilities, parks, reserves and other open spaces. So we've identified some principles to guide our budgeting and financial management practices and aligned to community needs, considered community infrastructure and invest in future delivery. Our financial plans have been developed in uncertain economic times, and we understand that many in our community are facing financial challenges. But with this in mind, we have kept our rates in line with the state government's mandated rate cap, frozen components of the waste services charges and continue to assist ratepayers experiencing financial hardship. We also are debt-free, and of course we are carefully managing our spending. Building a better Manningham with a $529 million capital works program over the next 10 years. That's right, $529 million to renew and enhance our $3.3 billion of our community assets and a further $308 million over the 10 years to maintain them. Delivering for our community with an operating budget of $163 million in 26-27 and enabling more than 100 valuable services to our communities each and every day. So we're investing and planning for our future. And that's our proposed budget for 10-year financial plan. And some of the strategic planning principles in section 89 include the following: an integrated approach to planning, monitoring, performance reporting, the community vision, resources needed for effective implementation, risks and effective implementation, and ongoing monitoring of progress and regular reviews to identify and address changing circumstances. Some of the plans delivered: $120 million in capital for our roads and bridges renewal and upgrades, plus $22 million for roads maintenance. $88 million capital for recreation, leisure and community facilities, and another $42 million for sports grounds, leisure centre and community facilities. $70 million capital for the open space, parks, streetscapes, beautification and improvement programs, plus another $159 million for maintenance, including $7 million for tree planting. $59 million for capital and new road drainage upgrades, $113 million capital for building and building improvements, $36 million capital for paths and cycleways, and $19 million for plant machinery equipment. But we acknowledge the economic and environment challenges faced by our community with the cost of living pressures. And in recognition of this, we as a council, the officers and councillors, kept rates in line with Victorian government's mandated rate cap. We froze our standard wage service charges and continue to provide $150 low income rate rebate for holders of a Commonwealth Government low income healthcare card. We applied deductions on rates and the Emergency Services Volunteer Fund levy for eligible holders of a state government pensioner card, of course, or Veterans Affairs Gold Card. We continue to assist ratepayers experiencing financial hardship, and our financial hardship policy and information pertaining to the financial hardship applications is available on our website for those that need it. But we are delivering for our community, progressively implementing priorities from early years infrastructure plan, supporting our local neighbourhood houses, improving library facilities and services across Manningham, pushing hard to reduce the impacts of the North East Link project, continuing to advocate for funding to develop a new facility for Park Orchards Community House and learning centres. But we're also planning and investing for our future. In planning for the integrated water management strategy, planning for our housing population growth in response to Victorian Government housing targets, participating in government consultation on infrastructure funding reform and advocating for equitable funding, directing increased residential densities in urban areas close to public transport, services and community facilities, preparing new open space strategy, implementing investment framework and investing in technology to improve efficiency and service delivery. Thank you. All those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you. Next time. Councillors, our operating budget provides funding to deliver community services aligned with the themes of our council plan, including $24 million for safe health and healthy community, 26 million for livable places and spaces, 39 million for resilient environment, 4 million for thriving economy and 35 million for a well-governed innovative council. Councillors, we are doing great. We've planned for projects. We've planned for our next 10-year budget. I want to thank all the officers involved in putting this together, and I want to thank you as councillors to providing a great budget and hopefully approving great budget. So I really appreciate all the work that's gone into this. Councillor Lang, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Councillor Grievous, Mr Mayor. You did such a good job at outlining everything in it that I don't need to say anything more about it. However, doesn't that just show how much we have to do, and the fact that we've been not only able to show it in the next financial year's budget, but we've been able to forecast it in a 10-year budget. So when you think of it in a rate cap environment, you think of the economic environment which we're in with the escalation of costs to build and do things. You think of the cost of living pressures and people having less funds to, just do extra things with. And we are still delivering all of that and staying financially sustainable. That's what I call a tight but forward-thinking budget that is conservative, but it is as well as looking to use our community's money to do the 100 plus services which we do, and to maintain all the things we maintain. So I think we should be really pleased. And I remember when we were looking at this budget and somebody said, actually, I think, we look at it through the rose-coloured glasses, what a good budget is. I actually think, with outlining everything you just said, Councillor Grievous, and the economic environment that we're in, that's exactly what this is. It's tight. It's got to be back to principles. It's got to be able to be justified, but look at all the things that you can do. And I think we should be very pleased. But can I just add the next element on top of that? We're just endorsing tonight in principle. We're actually putting this now out there to the community and say, now you look at it. We've looked at it. This is what the organisation has come up with. Now you look at it and you see what you think. We don't have to do that. We choose to do that because it is our public, our community's money, and we are showing them how we are looking to spend it, and we're asking for their input. I think we should be very proud to endorse this in principle and send it out to our community tonight.
Thank you, Councillor Lang. Do I have a speaker against the motion? Do I have a speaker for the motion? Councillor Main.
Thank you, Mayor. We really do face this challenge every year with our budget, where we try to deliver as much as we possibly can while still trying to minimise rates and charges for our community, while still trying to remain financially sustainable so we continue to offer our wonderful services for the future generations to come. Although so much has been covered, I just like to bring a bit more attention to one of my favourite parts of the budget, which is our freezing of the waste charge. So regardless of those increased costs from our waste contracts and the Vic Government EPA landfill levy, we can freeze our waste charge as a result of the savings from FOGO. So FOGO has not only done absolute wonders for our environment, but it also has actually saved council money as a result of the reduction of waste that is going to landfill. And I want to thank not only officers for their seamless implementation of this change, but also community whose cooperation has helped us reach this really great outcome. So I'd like to thank officers for all their work putting this together, as well as the community for their inputs from the community survey, which helped shape the priorities for this proposed budget. And I really encourage any more contributions as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Main. Do I have any other councillors to speak to the motion? Councillor Chen.
This is my 10th year in council, but every year when we manage and debated on the budget, it is not an easy task because, as Councillor Lam mentioned before, that we have over 100 services, and we always try to balance the competing interests and the local groups' demands as well. Some groups are more vocal than the others, but it doesn't mean that the less vocal ones are not being heard. We try to consider all interests as much as possible, and be mindful that we don't have any debt, as Councillor Griffiths just mentioned, but we still are facing extensive financial pressure, and because most of our revenue comes from the rates and charges, which rank about 65 to 71% of our revenue, and compared to other councils, which they perhaps about 50 or 60. So we are heavily rely on our rates, and on the other hand, our grants, and we receive about 5.5 million in 25-26. I have to say, compared to other councils, we actually receive very small grants, but we still appreciate 5 million can still build a lot of bus shelters, a lot of footpaths, and we still appreciate that. But compared to other councils, we receive at the other end, very low end of the grants and capital grants from the government. And also the cost shifting. I still remember in 24-25, if I remember correctly, and one of the community members asked a question about the cost shifting, and our CFO, very cool, and she stood up and said there are 30 million, and then off he went, and everyone was surprised about 30 million cost shifting from the state government. But 1 year later, if I remember it correctly, it increased to 17.5 million. So I mean that it is really hard to balance the book, and we still try to manage to stay debt-free. But anyway, this is the budget out for public viewing, and I do recommend our community to have a good look, and perhaps if you can provide, it's not the end of the budget, and if you have any input, you can still have your say, and it doesn't mean that it is the end of the 26-27 budget. We still open and listen to your feedback. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chen. Do we have any other speakers on the motion? Councillor Conlon.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I guess I'm speaking to the motion, not particularly for it. I do hold deep concerns around our financial sustainability, looking at our unrestricted cash reserves, which are going to be pretty minimal going forward, our underlying surplus, which is pretty minimal going forward, and I just reminded the councillors that our underlying surplus is what funds our major projects. So I'm hoping that the message doesn't get out there that, you know, it's all rosy and there's no need for restraint, but there is a significant need for restraint, because to maintain financial sustainability, I believe, is my view, that we need to have a much stronger underlying surplus baked into our forward-looking budgets, because it's pretty rare that budgets come in, or the actual spend comes in less than what we budget for anyway. So I appreciate that might happen this year, but in general it's the other way around. So I'd like to express my concern and caution that it's not. I'd hate to for the public to get the wrong idea that this is, I've got all this money to spend. We're actually going to be down to almost zero unrestricted cash. So in the forward estimate. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Conlon. Are there any other councillors who would like to speak to the motion? Okay, I will close. Thank you, councillors. As Councillor Chen said, we do have financial pressures coming up. And as part of the state government reforms, they're asking us to now implement a purple bin, further putting further pressure on our residents, but putting also further pressure on our financials. In 2027, the state government wants to implement the new glass bins. We don't want a further burden on our residents. We don't want to find another $4.2 million to implement this service, and we don't want another $1.2 million every year after that. They're the financial pressures that we're coming under in the next couple of years. We also don't want to see more trucks on our roads, more bins in our streets, more contamination, or more emissions in our streets. But unfortunately, that's where we're headed towards. And that's something that we will look at in our budgets coming forward. But councillors, we have a great budget, and I urge to pass this motion. I'll put the motion. All in favour? That is carried unanimously. Item 13.2, investment framework. Do I have a mover, please?
I'd like to move the motion, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Al-Taha. Do I have a seconder, please?
I'd like to
Councillor-
second the motion.
Councillor Lamb,
please.
thank you. Councillor Al-Taha, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'm very glad to raise this motion tonight, as it was one of my key goals to bring to council upon election for the current term, and also the reason for running for council given my professional area of interest. I want to thank the officers for their work in drafting the strategy and my fellow councillors for their help in shaping it. It is great to see one of the council plan action items that I was passionate about come into reality. I also do specifically want to note my appreciation to the work officers undertook to draft the strategy, given it is relatively uncharted territory for local government. Manningham Council is particularly fortunate to have a healthy and robust financial position, due most importantly from the contribution of our ratepayers, as well as the decision-making by prior councils. With that financial strength and our overall surplus position, however, comes a significant responsibility for us as councillors and council as a whole to be ensuring that any surplus funds we have are allocated as effectively as possible for the well-being of our ratepayers and community members. Ratepayers entrust us with their dollars to achieve outcomes for them, and this framework is a step forward on that goal. As such, I am very pleased to see Manningham Council embrace the notion of utilising any surplus capital it has accumulated for the ultimate benefit of ratepayers, and with the long-term goal of easing pressures on them for the Revenue Council requires to provide essential services to the community at the quality we have all grown accustomed to, as well as supporting the funding of any major projects that emerge that the community needs. This is especially important given the things that we discussed in the budget, and as well as cost shifting becomes a bigger issue for local governments that we have to contend with. It is also beneficial that Manningham Council explores the ways we can diversify the revenue it needs to operate. As such, this framework allows Manningham Council to investigate and assess the creation of revenue-generating income streams via the use of its surplus accumulated capital in order to deliver high-quality infrastructure and services to our community, while overall easing the pressure on rate revenue over time. Ideally, any capital invested in this fund will compound and grow, with the ultimate goal that it can create a revenue stream that will alleviate reliance on rate dollars and pressures that we face. While this end goal will take significant time to develop, and the formation of this framework is a stepping stone, it will ensure that Manningham Council carefully considers how it utilises all surplus capital, that it is not required to be kept as a safeguard for council services and operations, and this is a pivotal step in that journey. I hope that this framework will continue to shape investment policy for the council for many, many years to come. Having an investment framework will force council to contemplate how best to position every dollar we have to ensure that the funds are maximised for the benefit of ratepayers in a way that generates a more beneficial return than the current system. It will also provide us a methodology to examine, assess, rank and decide if a potential use of capital is optimal given our risk profile, return hurdles, liquidity requirements and overall operating ethos. It will ensure that if it is right-sized as well, such that there is no financial strain put on Manningham Council by the creation of this framework, and there is no compromise on the function that we offer to community, and it also provides flexibility to use any of that capital for services should we need it. Despite there not being a formal framework in place before now, the fact is Manningham Council already had made a decision to put any surplus capital into an investment, and the investment has been term deposits. But this was done without specific rigour or assessment, such that it provides necessarily the best outcome that we can achieve with those dollars. This new framework will ensure that those decisions are given the analysis deserved given the quantum of capital in play, and is responsible that we are responsible for, and ideally will give more back to community, and every available feasible option will be considered. Once again, I'm very pleased to see Manningham Council embrace this type of strategic planning and maturity in the way it tackles the financial sustainability problems that we have to contend with for our municipality for the benefit of our ratepayers and our wellness as a whole in the long term. And I encourage all of my fellow councillors to support this motion and thank them for their guidance today.
Thank you, Councillor El-Taha. Councillor Lang, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you. Not too much to add, but if I just put this together with the last report that we just looked at, and as Councillor Condolence raised, that there is, future economic hurdles that we do have to encounter. This framework is about saying why we do have, if whatever we do have left over, that we use that public funds to create more public funds to be able to do future projects when there will be less able to be done. And so if I put that at the core, it's about a responsible stewardship of public money, where we do every dollar that we do have from our hard-earning ratepayers, that it is used in services, that is used in community facilities, and then what's left is invested so that we can get more to continue delivering for our community. And it's not about just holding on to funds. It's not about just saying, oh, look how good we're performing because we've got this left over. It's about saying with our surplus that we will invest it under this transparent, very clear framework for the benefit of our community to be able to deliver for our community. And I think that's a really important step forward. It's about being quite disciplined, clear, and accountable for what we do. I also wanted to just say that, financial pressures are falling on all local governments. And even though Manningham, can operate saying it doesn't have borrowings now, we don't know what the future holds. So while we don't have to borrow to do our core services, let's make sure what we do have is actually going to set us up for financial stability in the future. The other thing I just wanted to bring to the community's attention and to councillors is to say, with managing these costs, pressures, growing community, housing targets, cost of resources and living, that when we don't have the ability just to increase our income coming in, because that would be to the detriment of our residents. What we can do is what we've got, use it to the best of our ability and then invest it in a way that brings our community benefit. So this is what this framework does.
Thank you, Councillor Lang. Do I have any councillors against the motion? Do I have any other councillors who would like to speak to the motion? I'll now put the motion. All in favour? That is unanimously carried. Item 13.3, Manningham Quarterly Report, Quarter 3, March 2026. Do I have a mover, please? Councillor Conlon.
Thank you. I'd like to move that recommendation be adopted.
Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Chen. Councillor Conlon, would you like to speak to the motion?
I would like to speak to the motion. Just briefly, a lot of this stuff we've actually covered already in the other reports, so I won't go into those. But it is a good report, and there are some actually positive things, some positive news, as I mentioned before. Like it looks like we're actually under our budget in some areas. Note the insurance premiums for once are actually, I think, less than what we expected. That's got to be the first since I've been on council, I think. And that's a good news thing, and hopefully that continues. Again, this is a reflection of all the great work that the operational part of the council does. It's quite staggering actually when you look at the amount of things that we are involved with. There's a whole section there on community engagement, which I think we do fairly well at, and I think we're getting better at. I guess one of the things that stood out to me was our customer service response, and I think I read somewhere there's 20 odd thousand calls in the quarter, and just I guess the way we manage that, the way we've got an uplift in our I can't remember the term for it, the reporter score, the promoter score, that's the one, the net promoter score. That's a good thing. That's hard. That's hard going to get that up. And I think despite our call times not reaching their target, the reflection of the customers is that at least we're getting the job done in terms of answering the queries. And so I noticed SnapSend Solved is up again. That's great. That's now about 10%, I think, of probably our CRMs are basically based on that. And I think that's going to be an increasing area. And it's great to see that we're second in the state in terms of that. That's our performance against the rest of the state in terms of how we're solving those SnapSend Solve things. So it is a great reflection, I think, of the great work of the organisation, the culture of the organisation that I think it reflects is that they do want to help our customers. They do want to take our customers seriously. They want to do the best by the ratepayers. Obviously, it doesn't always work out that way, but I believe there is it's been a slow, steady journey, and I'd like to thank the CEO in particular and the rest of the organisation for continuing to put our ratepayers first. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Conlon. Councillor Chen, would you like to speak to the motion?
Just like Councillor Collins said, that a lot has already been said, and which is relatively a good report. But I think that the quarterly report represents the performance results across various areas such as finance, capital works, the progress of our council plan, action plan, environment, governance, expense, customer services, and community engagement, including CEO key performance KPI. So, and that report is, I encourage residents to read the reports. You can find the reports easily at the Manningham Council website, our performance page. But I have to raise the issue about our SnapSend Solve. I'm a keen solver, and send us Councillor Collins and many councillors on the table tonight. But the thing is, there are still rooms to improve. We are not only sent and to tell Manningham Council what's going on and what's going wrong with it and need to be improved on. But I mean that can be improved further in terms of the response, how we are going to deal with it, because customers perhaps just have the impression once we just press the button, the problem solved. But I mean that in reality it's not that easy, so we can refine the work and perhaps to give more information about not only acknowledgement but also when they will be solved, to just give them some expectation about the issue. So hopefully they won't come back again for the second time, say, what's about the SnapSend Solve? Have you ever read your channels or any communication issues or what? There's another issues, and recently come across to me about customers still like to ask questions on our Facebook page, and they send it, and they think that our customer service will automatically receive the message, which is not. So I mean that perhaps that issues can be addressed. Perhaps we just close the functions or what, or just let customer know that the best way to address your complaint is through the snappers or the solver or whatever. So that is the thing, but we can improve on. But overall, very interesting result. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chen. Do I have a councillor against this motion? Do I have a councillor who would like to speak to the motion? Councillor Main.
Thank you, Mayor. Just briefly, as Councillor Conlon has already touched on, this is another report that touches on all of the great work that we do here at Council. And I just wanted to point out a few of the other things that I thought saw as particular highlights that haven't really been mentioned as much. So we have our Manningham Youth Summit 2026, which has been co-designed with our Manningham Youth Advisory Committee, and it's happening very shortly. I will report back on that next council meeting. We had 5 of our community advisory committees recruited and they've all started and jetted off. But though we had a particularly exciting quarter for environment with our Clean Up Australia Day activities at Ruffy Lake Park throughout February and March, our public EV charger installations and our community batteries, which I thought were particularly exciting and something to point out. So I'd just like to thank the officers for all their work putting this report together and for delivering so many of the great initiatives outlined in the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mayne. Do I have any other councillors wanting to speak to the motion? I will put that motion. All in favour? Carried unanimously. Item 13.4. Revised S6 instruments of delegation from council to staff. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Chen.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that the recommendation be adopted.
Thank you, Councillor Chen. Do I have a seconder, please?
I second the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Mayne. Councillor Chen, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. And the Section 6 instrument of delegation is a formal document used by Victorian Council to delegate specific statutory powers, duties, and functions directly from Council to Council staff under various acts and regulations, including Planning and Environmental Act 1987, Food Act 1984, Road Management Act 2004, and Domestic Animals Act 1994, just name a few. The Section 6 was last approved by Council in July 2025. Since then, the Consumer and Planning Legislation Amendment, which is Housing Statement Reform, we all know about that, 2025. The Act makes several changes to the Planning and Environmental Act, Environment Act 1987. For example, there are new council powers in relation to preparing amendments to the planning scheme, abandoning of amendments, and the ability of the minister to continue with the amendment despite of the amendment. The report presents a revised Section 6 after reviewing the latest advice from Maddox's lawyers. I ask fellow councillors support of the report and endorsement of the revised Section 6 instrument of delegation from council to staff. Very mouthful, but it is very important. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chen. Councillor Mayne, would you like to speak to the motion?
Nothing to add, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mayne. Do I have any councillors against the motion? Do I have any other councillors who would like to speak to the motion? I will now put that motion. All in favour? That is carried unanimously. Item 13.5, informal meetings of councillors. Can I have a mover, please?
I move the motion, Mayor, and that the recommendation be adopted.
Thank you, Councillor El-Taha. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Diamante. Councillor El-Taha, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. It was a busy month of meetings this last month, busier than it's been the last few months, particularly with a lot of committee meetings. One of the things I wanted to draw focus on was one of the things that was discussed in these committee meetings, and that was around the comfort our community has towards financial literacy and how we as a council can offer more support in this space. This is something that is a really pivotal area for us to look at as a council. I had the privilege of sitting in the discussion for the financial wellbeing discussions in the Youth Committee and the Multicultural Committee, and the conversations were incredibly robust. This is something I'll expand on later in my report time. Thank you, Mayor. But just something that I wanted to note, that it was discussed across the different committees as part of something that the officers are doing with their investigative work, and it was very well received by community. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor El-Taha. Councillor Diamante, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I guess following on from what Councillor El-Taha was saying, being the chair of the Health and Wellbeing Advisory Committee, we had a brilliant discussion on financial wellbeing and financial literacy as well. In fact, in that Health and Wellbeing Advisory Committee, we have community representatives, and they range from very young, sort of early 20s, up to a little older, and as well as community groups. And the common theme was we need to better understand finances and savings, etc. So I think it's a really important piece of work of council. We also went around the table in the Health and Wellbeing Advisory Committee to understand, what are some of the biggest issues that we're seeing in the community. And sadly, Mayor, but no surprise, there was a really strong emphasis on mental health and the need for us to look after our young men and invest more in men's sheds, as well as looking after people in the community who are isolated for different reasons, and how we can have support services in the community that council supports, or that are just independent of council, that support the mental health and wellbeing. So it's brilliant to get that feedback. But I did, Mayor, if in my time left, I just want to speak about the other thing that we had here, which was the North East Link briefing, where all of the North East Link teams came to meet with councillors. And I want to thank Jim Waller and his teams. And so that included the Spark team involved in the Central package, the Tunnels package. That included the Beck Tram Road Alliance. It included some representatives from the Eastern package as well, noting that this is an extraordinarily large project. So it was wonderful that we were able to sit around the table and advocate for our needs, including our key advocacy needs around filtering of the exhaust stack that will be right outside the Marsland playing fields and near the Trinity playing fields, our ongoing advocacy for real-time monitoring of air quality data, advocacy for community groups who have been significantly impacted by the project, including the Venator Club as well. So I do want to thank Jim and his team for meeting and having such a constructive approach to the project and with council. And I hope we have some more robust, constructive conversations, given that we've got some more difficult decisions coming down the path, which I will also speak to later. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Diamante. Do I have a speaker against the motion? Do I have any other speakers to the motion? I will now put that motion. All in favour? That is unanimously carried. Item 13.6, documents for sealing. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Diamante.
I move that the recommendation be adopted, Mayor.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Conlon. Councillor Diamante, would you like to speak to the motion? No? Councillor Conlon, would you like to speak to the motion? Do we have any speakers against that motion? I will now put that motion. All in favour? Unanimously carried. Item 14, Chief Executive Officer. Councillors, there are no Chief Executive Officer reports tonight. Item number 15, urgent business. There are no items of urgent business tonight. Item number 16, councillor reports and question time. Councillors, do we have any reports or question time? Councillor Chen.
And thank you, Mayor. And just to report, and Council launched Manningham Law Week on the 14th of May with an interactive session, Let's Talk Law Q&A with David Whiting. David is one of Melbourne's most respected lawyers, known for providing practical, easy to understand legal advice on ABC Radio Melbourne. Attendees could connect with a range of local organisations attending as stallholders, such as Eastern Community Legal Centre, Justice Connect, Don't Care Services Australia, just name a few. It was a great event to open the Law Week, which is very close to my heart. And another report is about Manningham Council is an active member of Eastern Transport Coalition, fighting for a better deal for transport users across Melbourne East. On 21st of May, the ETC launched its 2026 election platform, Better Transport for Melbourne's East. They include all the initiatives from from the members in Melbourne East. I was honored to be part of the panel discussion and share my personal experiences as a regular bus user and Manningham's Better Bus Advocacy Initiatives and Manningham's Bus Survey, which I have to promote it to everyone. And I encourage residents to complete the bus survey and via your Say Manningham website, or just simply pick up a pamphlet from the libraries. This is a great opportunity to let the state government, the election candidates know what matters to Manningham. Manningham wants better bus services, increased frequency, service reliability, and improved connectivity are essential and important for us. If we don't speak, we never be heard. And I want to take this opportunity to thank our dedicated staff who organized the Law Week, and Julia Nicoletta, and of course, Andrea for attending and supporting me at the ETC Transport launch. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chen. Councillor Lang.
Thank you. I'd just like to take this moment to warmly congratulate Anderson Creek Primary School and Principal Daniel Webber and the entire school community on their absolutely wonderful production of Aladdin Junior. The Mayor and I were privileged to attend, and we witnessed far more than a school musical. It was a vibrant celebration of creativity, confidence, teamwork, and community spirit. The students were polished, they were energetic, they were well engaged, and even performing with smiles on their faces, even when spontaneous adjustments were required. They showed true maturity, and it was a credit to the presentation that went behind the scenes. I just want to give a huge congratulations, because this production wasn't just delivered by a state government service, a school. This production was delivered by community members. The production coordinator or director was a local guru, Gavin, who is in the production industry, but he donated his time to help a local school produce a quality production. It was with his passion and with his countless hours that they brought the production to life. I also want to acknowledge all the parents, all the volunteers, all the community groups and the local supporters. In fact, when we spoke to the principal at the end, he said we couldn't deliver this sort of production if it wasn't for the local people who stood up and donated their time or gave of their resources or donations or just encouragement. So I just think this musical was more than a production. It was a reminder that local schools are so much hubs within our community, and that we support our community by supporting those local hubs. And it's about growth, creativity, opportunities, and it's about all of us being together. And if I go back to a really old school saying, it's about living as a community, not as silos. It takes a community to raise a child, and we saw that in force. So well done to Anderson Creek Primary School for a very polished production, and it was a pleasure to attend.
Thank you, Councillor Lang. Councillor Di Monte.
Thank you, Mayor. Firstly, I want to congratulate Councillor Chen for representing the whole of Manningham so well at the ETC Transport Advocacy launch from Bulleen right out to Wonga Park. She did everyone really proud, so congratulations, Councillor Chen. I also want to thank the North East Link Project and Spark for hosting the Mayor and myself and Councillor Goff and Councillor Main for our walk through the tunnels, and also to see the tunnel boring machine Zelda, the head of it, after it had broken through the Manningham interchange. And, you know, I know the residents have put up with a lot in terms of dust and car parks and noise and lights, vibrations, but it's pretty extraordinary to see what has happened underneath Bulleen. It's pretty impressive engineering, and I do want to say that when you see the width and size of these tunnels going to and from the freeway, and just the sheer volume of work that's been happening underneath our roads and our reserves. So I want to acknowledge that hard work and that engineering and thank them. But it's not all rosy with our North East Link friends, because I do want our listeners and watchers to know that we've got a special council meeting coming up on the 2nd of June to consider planning scheme amendments that have not just affected Manningham, they've affected other councils up and down the freeway. But in Manningham, there are two quite considerable proposed amendments that bring the project envelope through 2 really large reserves and up to neighbouring fences as well, from Tram Road Reserve and also near Middleborough Road. So I do encourage people who are interested in this to visit the council meeting or to tune in and to listen to us discuss the report, and the papers for that will be available shortly on our website. And thank you to the officers for the hard work in doing that so speedily.
Thank you, Councillor Diamante. Councillor Main.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to add to that, just for any confusion about the planning scheme amendment, submissions for the public are due by May 27, so that is tomorrow. So for any residents listening who do have concerns, I do urge you to share those concerns with NELP through the submissions. And just for any confusion, the reasons why we're having our special council meeting next week is because council had the opportunity to seek an extension, which was great that we got, and we couldn't get our submissions together by the time the agenda for this meeting went public, and that's why we aren't considering them at this meeting. Just if there was any confusions, because ordinarily council has a meeting once a month, the last Tuesday of the month, but this is a special council meeting for a very special consideration. Just to clear that up, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Main. Councillor El Taha.
Thank you very much, Mayor. As I mentioned earlier, I did want to sort of circle back to the discussion regarding the financial wellbeing that came about through the committee meetings. So, as I mentioned earlier, one of the key drivers for me becoming a councillor was actually improving access and support for our community in terms of their financial wellbeing. Along with the investment strategy, advocating for the financial know-how, confidence and well-being of our community is a key passion of mine, as I know what an impact financial stress can have on a person's life. Cost of living escalation coupled with rising uncertainty is a pivotal area of stress for all of us. And despite us being very fortunate to live in a stable area, our residents and community groups are still susceptible to money stress, confusion, scams and overall pressure. So ensuring our community members feel secure managing their money and knowing how to get support without feeling any shame is essential. More than just financial literacy, the well-being that comes with feeling financially confident and secure is undeniable and has knock-on effects with people in so many other aspects of their lives. So it's really something I'm passionate about striving to support our community in. When I attended the youth committee, they were very robust in their conversation and noted feelings of overwhelm about managing their money. And these are sort of quite astute young students who choose to join our committees. They felt that they didn't know who they could trust to learn from and felt very frustrated that their schools aren't supported to deliver this information to them. This is an area in particular I hope we as a council can do more to advocate to the relevant state government members to work into curriculum. Also, with the Multicultural Committee, they touched on how vulnerable that migrants can feel navigating this space and again, unsure where to turn and unsure what information they can trust. So as such, my hope is that we can amplify the work being done by organisations in this space and get this out to community via our substantial reach so that members have the confidence and the support that they deserve. As such, I know it's something that officers have been working on and I would be great to get a status update from them on this matter to date. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor El Taha. Are there any other councillors who'd like to? Oh, sorry. Sorry, question, my apologies. El Taha. Andrew McMaster. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, through you. Thank you, Councillor Al Taha, for those observations. I've been to a lot of the advisory committees in my current Acting Director of Connected Communities roles, and one of the consistent agenda items has been working with those committees to understand what sort of financial literacy information is available. I think we've all been quite surprised by the amount of really valuable intel and information about what services are available on the ground there are in Manningham. It's been a really valuable exercise for our team to map out where the gaps are, and in particular, I agree with your observations that youth education seminars and also new Australians or new immigrants is clearly a gap that we can look to address when we're designing some financial literacy seminars to be delivered internally. So that mapping exercise is just about concluded, and we'll be making a time with yourself and other interested councillors to look what that seminar series might look like. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Are there any other councillors who'd like to raise anything? Councillor Collins.
Yeah, thank you. I'd just like to follow on for that. I went to the Disability Advisory Committee yesterday, and it had the same theme of they really appreciated the opportunity to talk about financial literacy, and one of those things about having a trusted source is really critical, and someone they can trust to look after them and not their self-interest. So I really just wanted to say thank you to Councillor El Taha for raising that as part of your thing, and this week's been I think it was this week, was it last week? Last week, sorry, was the Volunteers Week. So I had a privilege as the chair of the Library Board to go and meet all our volunteers down at MC Squared here, and it was amazing how many people volunteer, and they just do it off their own back. I met one volunteer. He's really disappointed. He's about to turn 90, and he's going to have to quit volunteering supposedly because apparently he's not insured, because we have to declare our insurance threshold. So I have one question regarding that. I have a couple more questions. So I have a question regarding if I can get some information about the insurance situation, which Andrew McMaster was there in conversation. So I'd just like to put that on record that I think we should be encouraging people to volunteer as long as they are capable. And this guy really loved volunteering. He does a great job. My other questions were regarding and I've raised this before, but just regarding the lights at Mullumbullen, given that we're going to be finalising the budget, just wanted to confirm that question is still active in terms of the getting lights down at the hockey field changed to LEDs, because it is not safe in my view down there at the moment, because the lights are going out and we can't get replacements. The hockey club can't get replacements. And also, I also had a question from last meeting regarding the CCTV costs. So I'm hoping that those CCTV and open library options will be considered. We'll have that information in time for the final budget at the next council meeting in June.
Thank you, Councillor Conlon.
If there's an update, I'll take it.
So, Lachlan, do you have an update? And Andrew, if you want to go after Lachlan.
Through you, Mayor. Councillor Conlon, thank you for your question. So I can confirm that the funding for the replacement of the lights at the hockey field at Doncaster is included in the 26-27 budget, so $100,000 has been allocated to do that. The other part of your question that you previously asked is regarding the general upgrade and Council's approach to upgrading lighting at all of our sporting facilities to be both contemporary but also energy efficient. I note that, so we're still working on the response to your question. There is funding allocated in the capital program over a number of years to achieve the outcomes there. But we're working on a response to your question to consider acceleration of that. And I would also note that Council is actively working on an approach to make those lights, to make those spaces available for people, not just for organised sport. So actually to be able to turn on those lights in some of those public spaces so that people can enjoy them for passive recreation as well as active recreation. And the upgrade program for the lights is a key enabler so that we can have the technology in place to be able to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Conlon, for your question on libraries. The details of the library insurance policies obviously should come from the Library Corporation itself. I'll make some inquiries with the CEO to get an understanding of that particular exclusion and be able to report back to councillors through the bulletin. On the open libraries and the budget question, I have raised that query with the library's CEO as well to determine the level of support they have for those initiatives. I haven't progressed those conversations much further than that, but it's a good reminder. Thank you. I'll pick that up and come back to you separately about it.
Could I just ask a clarifying question?
No, Councillor, you've gone past your 2 minutes. Your 2 hours. Your 2 minutes allocation. Thank you. Are there any other councillors want to raise anything? Councillors, I would like to raise something. Early in May, Councillor Diamante and myself attended the 2026 Victorian Gala presentation dinner for the Young Achievers Award. This award is basically applauds the leadership, vision and excellence and commitment of young people whilst highlighting their efforts and success. The purpose of the Young Achiever Awards is to acknowledge, encourage and most importantly, promote positive achievements of all young people up to and including 30 years of age. And I did want to call out one special finalist, which is Andrew Guro from, where is he from? From Park Orchards. He was a finalist. So congratulations to him, and we look forward to meeting up with Andrew in the near future. So congratulations, Andrew. Okay, councillors. Item number 17, confidential reports. Councillors, we have one confidential report for consideration tonight. Can I have a motion to close the council meeting to the public to consider the confidential matter? Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Collins.
I'd like to move that council close the meeting to the public pursuant to section 66(1) and 66(2) of the Local Government Act 2020 to consider the following confidential item, which is 17.1, Manningham Community Transport.
Thank you, Councillor Collins. Can I have a seconder, please?
I second the motion.
Councillor Main. Can I have a motion? Can I put the motion, sorry? Can I put the motion? All in favour? That's unanimously carried. Councillors, we will now be closing this meeting to members of the public and end the live stream to consider this confidential report. Thank you for joining the meeting this evening.